Hey guys, Dr. Mike Isratel here from Renaissance Periodization and Juggernaut Training Systems. We're talking about kind of a myth, sort of a relatively too infrequent practice of using of cheat reps in training. So what do we mean by cheat reps? It's probably like kind of a three-part definition. First part is you're using a lot of momentum, or for some movements, any momentum, to get the weight up. Another part of the definition is that you change your range of motion kind of without having a plan to do so. So for example, I didn't want to say limited range of motion because partial deadlifting, rack pulls and stuff like that, board presses, that's partial range of motion, but that's not cheating. But if you were planning on going all the way down to the chest with your bench press, but then you decided it was a little too heavy and maybe you shouldn't, then you're cheating, right? So we got momentum, we got cheat reps, and then there is a possibility of breakdown of technique as kind of the third possibility of what's considered cheating. So, for example, when you're bent rowing, the technique is you're supposed to keep your back stable and not swinging around, and you start swinging around, or in deadlifting, you keep going after your back's already rounded, your shoulders have slumped forward on the bench press, but you keep eking it out, because it lets you get a couple more reps or whatever, because of the broken down technique. That is what constitutes cheating. And here's the deal, there are benefits to cheating. What are they? You can use more weight as a huge benefit. If you curl, 20-pound dumbbells strict, you can curl the 30s if you put a little oomph into it, which might result in some higher forces. We'll take a look at that in a bit. There's definitely not just, people cheat for a reason. They have these reasons in their head at the very least that make some sense. You can use more weight as one of them. Another one, you can do more reps, right? If you have to stop when your technique breaks down a lot and you say, well, only perfect technique, you end up maybe having to do more sets or your repetition count isn't as high. If you did more reps, if you cheated a little bit, you could probably do more reps, which I guess is more work, and more work usually results in more results. As long as you're within your MRV, you're good to go. Another one is you can take your sets beyond failure, right? So for example, using curls again, if you curl super strict and then you hit failure in super strict, you can oomph a little bit more and take that muscle beyond failure, which is, at least in one session, is very stimulative. Failure training is very stimulative. Beyond failure training, every now and again, is really good to spur growth. So there are some benefits to those cheat reps, but there are some pretty distinct problems. So when you say that you can use more weight, okay, fine, but the reason you can use more weight, for example, in a swing curl, isn't because your muscles, your bicep muscles and your forearm flexors, it's not because they're exerting more force, it's because other muscles like your glutes, your lower back, maybe your front delts to initiate that swing are exerting more force. Well, you're not there when you're curling, you're not there to train those muscles. So yes, you're using more weight, but the force to the actual muscle itself very likely doesn't increase. So you're just now poisoning the training effect for other muscles, for lack of a better term. You're just making other muscles tired without pushing that muscle any further particularly. Another problem, if you're limiting range of motion, you're limiting motor unit activation. Different series of motor units or parts of your muscles and nerves are active here, are active here, are active here. If you go through a full range of motion without swinging or cheating, then you can activate most of your motor units through any single repetition. However, if you start just biceps to here, because if you come down here, you won't be able to do anymore, so you start cheating by limiting your range of motion, or you bench, only part of the way down, then you don't get full motor unit activation, you don't get full stimulus, and you probably miss out on some growth. Very related concept, you don't get a deep stretch anymore, especially when individuals bench press. Sometimes they'll bench, just to 3 inches above their chest. Why do we do that? Everyone knows, because you can lift more weight like that. You can feel cooler, you can put 2 or 3 plates on the bar instead of some change. It feels nice. The problem is a lot of the growth in the bench press results from a stretch to the pectoralis major muscles at the bottom. Stretch under load is an independent stimulus of hypertrophy. It literally promotes muscle growth. So if you stop short of a big stretch, yeah, it would be harder to stretch, but it's also better for you, so you're missing out on a big hypertrophic stimulus. And here's another really big one. Cheat reps actually cost you more fatigue to your overall training program than not cheating. They require more neural drive for the very simple reason, 2 simple reasons. One, you're using more muscles, so just your biceps only have so much nervous system innervation in them. It's not that much, it's a very small muscle. You start using your hips, your glutes, your everything. the total neural load and thus the nervous system fatigue starts to go up. Another thing is most people cheat rep, they go closer to failure or past failure for some muscles than they otherwise could. That makes the neural loading really, really high, which can do what? It can take your fatigue in a program and raise it like crazy. You're better off keeping your fatigue low and keeping it specific to the muscles you want to actually train instead of using so much weight and so many reps on cheat curls that you make yourself tired for everything else and then your program suffers. And lastly, probably the most obvious one is injury. Most of the injuries you've probably seen at the gym are from people doing really dumb stuff. Cheat reps are one of them. If you can't curl a certain weight, if you can't bench a certain weight, and you start messing around and trying to eke away, weight's going to punish you sooner or later. So for example, on the bench press, if you can only press maybe a quarter of the way down or a third of the way down, and then you kind of have to eke it out, right? If you go a little too low one time and you start pressing out of a position you're not used to, you can pop a pec, you can hurt your bicep curling wrong, you can do a whole lot of crazy stuff if you start cheating squats and deadlifts, then a very clear injury risk to your back. It's just not a really good idea. So yeah, we have some benefits, but we have some serious problems. Here are some alternatives. I'm personally not a big fan. The benefits are there, sort of, for cheat reps, but I think there are some good alternatives. First alternative, use good technique, use full range of motion, and you get a really big stimulus. If you think that you need to strap a 45-pound weight to yourself and do quarter dips or something like that, if you take the weight off and do full range of motion dips, your triceps are going to be blown up like you never thought possible. So this stuff really does work. It's not that good technique, I just don't feel it doesn't do anything. It really works the best. In addition to that, if you think, okay, well, with good technique, I can only do so many reps, that's not enough work, do more sets. People think, okay, I got to curl 3 sets of 10. I got to get everything out of these 3 sets of 10. Forget about that. Curl straight without swinging around. Do 6 sets of 10. That will blow you up. That will get you a ton of growth without taxing anything else, without all those extra costs. And lastly, and this is especially weird from bodybuilders, when you'll see a bodybuilder cheating like crazy, and then the next thing they'll say is, I'm really a fan of the mind-muscle connection. No, you're not. Get out of here. Mind-muscle connection is really awesome to develop, especially when you're doing good technique. So mind-muscle connection is when you take some weight off the bar, go through a full range of motion, really focus on the peak contraction, on the eccentric. That way, it's safe, it's effective, you really hit the muscle you want, you don't have to cheat, you don't have to risk it, and you get all the best benefits. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. See you next time.
Get expert program design, video analysis, and guidance for powerlifting and weightlifting, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced athlete, through Team Juggernaut's online coaching. Click Learn More to sign up.